Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another video. I've been looking forward to this one. We're going to hang out and we're going to take a look at Linux Mint Debian Edition 7GG. It is in beta as of the time we're recording this video and has been available since September the 18th, 2025 for public download, so you can participate in the beta if you want to. If you should happen to be seeing this video after the stable release, it will be available on Linux Mint. So I will have links not only to this Linux Mint blog post here, but also Linux Mint proper, so you can go and get it. Before we get into it, I want to say thank you very much to everybody who has subscribed since I started doing videos full time again. It has been an avalanche of subscribers. If you are not currently subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. It helps a great deal. And also, if you like what you see, give the video a big thumbs up. That tells YouTube that people like this sort of thing, and they will put it out in front of more people. And you guys have been doing that, and it's been working. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're going to hang out. We're going to take a look at this operating system. We're going to install it in a virtual machine. We're going to poke at it. We're going to set it up. We're going to just pretty much by the end of this video, I'm going to have a fully working, tweaked, and ready to go install. And we're going to try and keep it pretty simple this time around. I'm not going to be diving too deep into minutia. At least I'll try not to. So let's talk a little bit about LMDE and look at what Linux Mint says about it. Of course, that's Linux Mint Debian Edition. And essentially what it is that Linux Mint has a version of Mint that is based on Debian, just in case Ubuntu ever goes away or ever gets to the point where they can't use it for a base. And Ubuntu has been kind of flaky the last few years. There's a lot of change for the sake of change. And the other thing about it is that, Ubuntu pushes things that the community doesn't necessarily like sometimes, and so nobody quite knows what direction they're going to go. So this makes perfect sense. There are some folks in the community who believe that Linux Mint should drop the Ubuntu base altogether and focus 100% on Linux Mint Debian Edition and make that the version of Linux Mint. You guys can talk about that in the comments. I have mixed feelings about that. I think it's kind of up to Linux Mint, and Linux Mint will do what they want to do. But I really like Linux Mint Debian Edition because one of the things about it is it's super stable. They make it sound like it's some sort of experimental thing. It's not. I used LMDE 6 for pretty much the entire service life up until just a month or two ago. I installed it when it was brand new and ran it on my main machine as my daily operating system for a long time, and that's when I was doing work for the radio station. I was doing a lot of things every day when I needed the machine to really perform, and it did. I had no issues. And then about a couple of months ago, I developed this strange firmware issue where it said there was some firmware that might be missing, and I decided to reload it, and when I did, I put Ubuntu on it. The idea then was to wait for LMDE 7 and then reload it. I may keep Ubuntu around for a while because I've got it tweaked up the way I like it, but I'm really happy to see this LMDE 7 available because it's actually very cool. So let's talk about some important info. We're not going to read the release notes just yet. What I want to talk about is the basic requirements that Linux Mint says that you have to have, the system requirements. They say you can run this on 2 gigabytes of RAM. I say that if you tried to run it on 2 gigabytes of RAM, it would be very painful. So 4 gigabytes is recommended for comfortable usage. And they say comfortable usage, and I say that that would be if you're going to be maybe browsing the internet a little bit, doing some email, maybe even playing some light online games, watching videos, you should be fine with 4 gigabytes of RAM. If you're going to be pushing the machine, it ain't going to work. It's not going to like it. 20 gigabytes of disk space is the bare minimum. 100 gigabytes is recommended, especially if you are going to be using Timeshift to create system snapshots. We're going to look at that before the video is over, and 1024 by 768 resolution is the kind of standard lowest and you can use Alt to drag the windows around the alternate key if you end up at that resolution, which we will in the virtual machine. They say the beta release may contain critical bugs, so only use it for testing purposes and to help the Linux Mint team to fix issues prior to the stable release. I haven't found any major bugs here. I found one, I think, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. They say it will be possible to upgrade from the beta to the stable release, and they'll have instructions. Will be published probably here on the Linux Mint blog when the stable release comes out to do that to upgrade. Most of the time, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is install some updates, and you are on the stable version. But every now and again, there's some things you might need to do, like remove some packages or something like that. It's usually quite simple. Here's where you would send in bug reports if you were going to do that. I encourage you to do that if that's your thing. I have done that in the past for the Linux Mint team. And here are the download mirrors. So let's go up here and jump into the release notes real quick. There's not much here, but we will take a quick look at it to see what's going on. They say the LMDE installer, if you want to do it on an LVM machine, that you will have to do sudo live installer expert mode. Okay. It's important to remember that Linux Mint has a locked root account, even the Debian edition. A locked root account means that the root account does not have a password. If an account on a Linux system or a Unix system does not have a password, it is effectively locked. You cannot log into it, and that is done for safety. That is why in Ubuntu you always use the sudo command to do things. Of course, I say sudo, and I've been saying it for so many years. People get on me sometimes and go, it's sudo, it's not sudo. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Can't change now, man. And so anyway, this is a security measure, and you might need to enable that account by giving it a password. And that would be for, like, let's see, what are they talking about? From the grub menu to log in as root, you first need to give root a new password. VirtualBox guest editions. They are available in the device menu. Once you get this installed, you can get those installed, and then you'll get the proper, the screen being able to resize in the virtual machine. We're going to have to do that ourselves, but we're not using VirtualBox, so. And we see some other issues here. We're not going to get into that. Looks pretty cool to me. Username and password in the live session. This is good to remember. The username is Mint, and the password is nothing but hitting the Enter key. It's blank. So that's good to know. Let's jump over here and let us create a virtual machine to install what we're doing in. And yes, I had a take earlier where I created a machine and I had to delete it. So we're going to do it again. Hopefully this time we won't have problems. Everything just goes swimmingly until you hit the record button. I've noticed that will just bring out the worst in software and computers, and all kinds of stuff will happen. So we're going to grab the ISO image here. By the way, our virtualization software is GNOME boxes based on QEMU. So it's KVM and not VirtualBox. So the first thing we need to do is give this a name, and we're going to call it just LMDE 7. I already have an LMDE virtual machine installed here, so we need to differentiate it. This doesn't matter. And we're going to give it 4 gigabytes of RAM. And make sure it's 4.0 and not 40. And we're going to give it 100 gigabytes of drive space because we will be setting up time shift. Go ahead and get that started. Boom. And now we should boot right into the live environment. This is new in LMDE 7. This is where you can set up an OEM install. You couldn't do that in LMDE 6 and earlier versions of Linux Mint Debian Edition. An OEM install is where you are setting up a computer for somebody else. And when that person logs in, they will create an account, and when they create their account, they will choose their username and password. You do not do that for them. An OEM install is the way to do it if you are going to be giving a machine to somebody else and you don't know who they are. You know, if you're setting it up for your friend, you may set up an account and give him a password and say, here you go. But if you're going to be selling the machine or you don't know exactly where it's going, do an OEM install, because new Linux users shouldn't be trying to figure out how to change the name on their account and do all this other stuff and change the password. Make it so they set that up. And I do have videos on the channel about doing that. So it appears to have booted up. This is good. I'm glad to see this. This is where you are going to be checking to make sure that you have an internet connection. If your Wi-Fi doesn't work, then use Ethernet. When you install the system, it should be able to figure out that you need drivers for your Wi-Fi. Let's say if you do, it's not working automatically. Some Wi-Fi cards need drivers, and it should find them. Although it doesn't seem to actually go out on the internet when you install it. I was watching it earlier, and it doesn't seem to like download any language packs or anything. You have to do that afterwards. So we're going to make the fonts bigger, and we're also going to adjust the display because we do not have any drivers for our virtual machine installed yet. We'll do that once we get the system installed. So let's try 1600 by 900. That seems to work the best. There we go. Yep. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. It didn't do what I wanted it to do. Try that again. We're looking at this one. Let's do, well, that's too big. Here we go. This will work. That's, well, no, wait a minute. I'm not liking that either. Hold on a second here. Don't want 4:3, 16:10. There we go. Let's do that one. Yay. That looks good. That's perfect. Okay, so now we can see what we're doing. So like I said, this would be where you're trying to see whether you can get your internet connected and see whether all of your hardware is compatible and your mouse works and your keyboard and all that stuff, because do not install it expecting that to change, because sometimes it doesn't. If you're having basic hardware problems, you probably need to stop and troubleshoot them before you try and install it on the system. But most of the time, everything works right out of the box these days. With most modern machines, modern Linux is very good at adapting and working. There used to be horror stories about drivers and things like that. That's really all in the past. Super easy these days to set up Linux. So this is the installer, which has been modified for LMDE 7. Let us go see what we've got going on. The first thing it's going to do is ask me what language, and it has defaulted to English United States. That's what we speak around here. I am in the Eastern Time Zone, and New York City is in the Eastern Time Zone as well. And then a US keyboard English, that's what we're using, so this is good. Now we put in some personal information. Put your name in. I do suggest that you put your full name in and that you get your case right. And we'll just call the machine LMDE 7. And as far as a password is concerned, I suggest that you pick something that is easy to type and easy to remember, because new Linux users who get, they want to create themselves this really super strong password. They think they're being cool, don't realize how many times they need to type that in, and if it's a bunch of special characters and stuff like that, that's going to be difficult. And also, something that's easy to remember is a good thing too. I used to work with a lot of people one-on-one installing Linux on systems, and usually on the phone, and I would tell them, okay, put a password in, and they'd put something in, and we'd get all the way to the end, and we'd reboot the system, and they wouldn't be able to log in because they forgot their password, and it was too complex, and they couldn't figure it out, and we'd have to start all over. That's absolutely true. So we want to have the system require a password at login. I don't recommend logging in automatically, because if anybody gets a hold of your machine that you don't want to get a hold of your machine and then just turns it on and they just boot right in, it's just like saying, hey, take all my stuff. I don't care. Go ahead. So, yeah, you want to make it a little bit difficult for them. Make sure there's a password involved. Now, do you want to encrypt your home folder? I don't think you need to do that. Do it if you need to. I mean, if you need to be super secret and all that stuff. But do keep in mind that encrypting your home folder does have a performance hit. It's going to slow things down because of all that encryption when it reads and writes. And the other thing that's going to happen is that if for some reason you cannot boot that machine, the operating system itself doesn't work anymore, you can't run the machine off a live like a live USB stick, or even take the hard drive out and read the home folder. You can't do it. It has to boot up, and you have to be logged in so it knows it's you. Otherwise, it doesn't have the key and it can't decrypt the encryption. So I don't bother with it. But it's there if you need it. This may be a bug. I'm not really sure. We are up to the part now where we are going to set up our hard drive and our partitions and all this stuff. And you notice that we have the automated installation, which is just erase and install. If you've installed Linux before, you've seen this, but we can't move forward on it. We're kind of stuck, and it doesn't tell you what's going on. So if you click manual partitioning down here, now we can move forward, and we get a message that says there is no partition table on the drive. Well, of course not. We just created this drive in a virtual machine, and so it doesn't quite know what to do with it. I'm going to tell it can go ahead and put a partition on it. So it goes ahead and it does that. And now it suggests to us a partitioning scheme for our machine here. The first 4 gigabytes of the drive are being taken up by a swap partition. Linux Mint, Ubuntu, they now create a swap file. I just did a video all about that, and we don't create swap partitions on those distros. But apparently, Debian likes to have a swap partition, and they put it right up front at the beginning of the drive. If it was a spinning drive, that would be a good place for it to be, because that's the fastest access. A swap partition, or a swap file, for those of you who do not know, is where the system can page out things that are in random access memory, things that are in RAM that are idle. It can throw it on the hard drive for a little while. That frees up more physical RAM. It expands the memory on the system. Let's say that you do only have 4 gigs, and then you have a 4 gigabyte swap partition. Well, technically, kind of sort of, that means you have 8 gigabytes of available memory, even though half of it is on the hard drive. Of course, the problem with virtual memory is that it's much slower than physical RAM. Even if it's a solid state drive, it is going to be very much slower. And so when the system starts swapping a lot, it will slow down the performance. But if it's a low memory system, then that might be the difference between your system running or crashing too. You do need a little bit of swap even if you have a lot of memory in your computer. I had erroneously said that the Debian installer would create a swap partition the same size as your memory, even if you had like 16, 24, 32. I thought that's what it was, and I put that out there in the last video, and I asked, what does it do? And people have since told me that this installer will only create a swap partition as big as 8 gigabytes. So if you have 8 gigabytes of RAM, you'll get an 8 gigabyte swap partition, but if you have 16, 24 or more, then you're still only going to get an 8 gigabyte swap partition. You may think that's a little too big, And if that's the case, then you could always manually partition the drive and make the partition smaller, or you could just choose not to have a swap file at all, or a swap partition rather, and then have a swap file. I can show you how to do that, but I'm not going to do it in this video. And the reason why is because I think this works. As long as the swap partition doesn't get any bigger than 8 gigabytes, I think that's fine. I think that's a good trade-off. And for most people, that's plumbing and they don't care. Now, if you want to see me set up a custom partition drive with LMDE 7 on a UEFI machine, this is not a UEFI machine. You'll notice that we do not have a UEFI boot partition here. I will do that in a Wednesday Midweek Madness video if I get enough people who ask for it. And if 1 or 2 people say that they want to see it, I probably won't do it. But if a whole bunch of people say they want to see it, then I will. And the reason why I'm a little reluctant to do that is that when you get way down into the system like that, people don't necessarily pay much attention to it. It's the videos don't do well. So we're just going to accept this because this will be just fine. But have fun in the comments. You can say how you would like your system to be set up. I'd actually like to hear that, to tell you the truth. Let me know your thoughts. So we will move forward. We're going to accept that. That's okay. And we're going to boot from SDA. This virtual machine is not running with UEFI enabled. So therefore, we're just using an MS-DOS partition, and it's just going to do the old MS-DOS bootloader at the beginning of the drive. That's why there's no separate partition for it. And this all looks good, so we're going to let it go. How long is this going to take? It depends on your hardware. It could be anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. It just depends on how long it takes to do it. It's reading from the live environment. It's copying files. And live environments are stored with a file system called squash.fs, which is highly compressed. So everything it copies, it has to decompress, and that takes CPU time, and that's why live environments tend to be slow. Fortunately for you, since this is a video, this isn't going to take any time at all. All done. That didn't take long at all. So instead of just restarting the system, I'm going to stop it, or just say no. I'm going to actually shut this down because there's a couple of things that I want to change in the virtual machine. You wouldn't have to do this if you were on a physical computer. You would just reboot it. I'm going to shut it down. This is where it tells you to take the live media out. What we're going to do is go to the new machine we've just created. And I want to go to Preferences. Go to Devices. I want to get this live thing out of there because we don't need it anymore. And I want to reduce the number of CPUs. We're going to make it about 3. So this will be a, like I said, a lightweight laptop install is what we're doing here. We're not going to create a snapshot or anything. We're good. So that's done. And now we'll boot up for the first time, and we'll see what we get. Linux Mint is not noted for being the fastest booting operating system on the planet. Hopefully this goes pretty quick. It should. That's not bad. Log in. And the very first thing that I'm going to do is to get... We're going to look at that when we come back, but the first thing that I want to do... Well, let's go ahead and make the fonts bigger. That would help. On a high-resolution laptop, which I think is kind of silly anyway, where they have the really high-resolution screen, but it's only like 15 inches, and you're trying to install something, it comes up so tiny that you have to actually go and get a magnifying glass to see it. I've got a laptop like that. I just couldn't believe it. So I'm going to just install the video driver here, and this is called Spice VD Agent. And this is in the repos for just about every Linux distribution. You'll need that with QEMU or any KVM based thing, I think. We have a new apt, which is kind of cool. That was super simple, so let's go ahead and reboot that. Give that driver a chance to get kicked in. And then we will start setting up our new Linux Mint Debian Edition 7 machine. I have tried to do this video many times today. We have a new dog in our house. The last video I mentioned her presence because she was making noise. And she is 16 years old, and we have inherited her from Cindy's mom, who is having some health issues, and she's in a care facility right now. And so we are taking care of her dog, and it appears that we're probably going to have this dog as our dog from now on. And that's taking a bit of getting used to. I'm a cat person. I'm not a dog person. All right. Hopefully this will resize. Oh, it looks perfect. That's exactly what it should do. So we can start diving into this. This welcome screen that comes up is actually really cool. So let's take a look at the first steps. They're talking about choosing desktop colors. We're not going to worry about that. I wouldn't set up system snapshots right off the bat. That's usually like the last thing I want to do. The first thing that we really need to do is run the update manager. We need to do updates before we do anything else to the system, although we cheated because I wanted to put that video driver in there. So we're going to do this. It says it's up to date, but I don't believe it. But I will take this opportunity to set the mirrors. Linux Mint has a very cool feature. Ubuntu does this as well, but Ubuntu sort of buries it. But this is a really cool feature in Linux Mint where you can choose a mirror that's close to you, that's fast. So for Linux Mint, I already know where I'm going. I want James Madison University, which is right there. So let's apply that. That is in Harrisonburg, Virginia. I used to live in Harrisonburg, about 3 miles down the road from James Madison University. But, you know, being physically close to a place doesn't necessarily make it the fastest, which is crazy because all of my Ubuntu machines right now are set to Old Dominion University, which is in downtown Norfolk. I am directly across the river from ODU. As the crow flies, it's probably 3 or 4 miles, if that. And that's not necessarily the fastest Ubuntu mirror I have found. Let's see what we've got for Debian here. Oh, we can do that one. That looks good. Of course, if you run into any problems with these, it's really not that big a deal. You can always jump in here and reset it. We are in software sources, and that's available from the menu. So let's go ahead and reload this, and I'm sure the system is going to find some updates to do. So we're going to let that happen. Alright, that looks good. Well, no, I'm going to have to refresh it here. That's fine. So we'll just run that one more time. And let's see. Do we have... Yeah, we've got lots of updates. Let's go ahead and do that. You never know which of these updates might be something that is enhancing stability, so you want to make sure that you get that installed before you do anything else to the system. New Linux users sometimes get themselves in trouble because they don't update the system and they start configuring things and then they run updates and it breaks something. Run your updates first. This is what keeps your Linux system safe. This is why you don't need antivirus software. This is why Linux is secure, is because we get these constant updates all the time, giving you the security patches in a very timely manner. I mean, the updates come down so much, some people get annoyed with it and they don't want to install it. But at the same time, this is why Linux is so secure. The moment a vulnerability is found, it's usually patched before you hear about it. Years ago, you used to have these news stories that would fly around the internet. A vulnerability was found in Linux and blah, 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 blah. Okay, and then you would actually find out that when you read the story, like the second paragraph down, they would say, but the patches have already been released. So if you did your updates, you never even knew it was there. They stopped doing those after a while. Let's see. And it's telling me that I need to reboot, so I'm going to do that. I'm glad they're telling people that. Let's do it. Yes, please restart the system. Awesome. That's an upgrade, because I don't think that was doing that in the last version of Linux Mint Debian Edition. I'm not really sure. I usually don't use the graphic update manager. I usually do it from a terminal, because I'm used to doing it that way. So when we get this rebooted, we'll try and put this in full screen mode, so we're not having a window within a window here. But I wanted to make sure all those updates got installed first. And it is taking its time to actually load up. Here we go. Linux Mint logo. And we have LightDM, which is our login manager. It's the name of the program that actually gives you the place to type there. Used to be used in Ubuntu years ago, but they've dropped it. At least in the vanilla GNOME edition of Ubuntu. So let's see what other things we can do here while we're looking at first steps. Let's try and full screen it. Let's see what happens. Okay, it seems to be working the way it should. Good deal. Multimedia codecs. Let's go ahead and install those. They're always nice to have around. Yes, please. Install. And we will install those packages. There's a couple of other things I'm going to install in here later. We're going to get some fonts that will help you to be more compatible with the Windows world. I don't think I have showed that much in videos, so I was thinking about that today. I said I really want to point that out. And we already have been to the update manager, but I'm going to open it again because I want to show you something here. If you're used to Linux Mint that is based on Ubuntu, you might know that they have a kernel tool. It's not here. We don't have that in Linux Mint Debian Edition. So you can't use that kernel tool. Anything you do with kernels, you're going to have to do from the command line or use Synaptic. And I'll show you that. I think that's important. We need to take a look at Synaptic. We can go to System Settings. Actually, we need to roll through there. We have Software Manager. That's where you install software, and Firewall at the end. So I think we're about done with this, because I'm going to jump into System Settings to show you the rest, but feel free to explore that. Just uncheck that, and that will go away. It won't boot back up again. And we're going to go here to System Settings. And we have already looked at fonts. Now, you could go in and do your fonts individually. For instance, I always like my monospace font. This would be the one that appears in your terminal. I usually like to turn that up to about 16. Of course, with this much scaling, it's going to be huge. Let's go ahead and just roll through this. So we're going to do 12. This is what I like. I think this looks good. Yeah, see, that's way too big, but we'll fix that in a moment. And our desktop font, let's make that 12 as well. And we'll make this 12. And then for the window title, I like that to be a little bit bigger. So we're going to make that 13. And then we're going to turn the scaling down a little bit. I usually like, 1 point. Let's do about there. That looks good to me. Or I can leave it a little bit larger for video's sake, for those of you on the that are on low resolution devices. This will make it easier for everybody to see as we roll on. So we've got our fonts set. That's nice. And let's see what else we have here. We'll just kind of roll through. Accessibility options, account details. I'm not sure what actions is. Okay. To dig into that some other time. That's not one that I usually play with. A date and time, we can turn off the 24-hour clock. Internet time we want on, definitely. Keep the system synced up, but I don't like a 24-hour clock. Let's see what else we got here. Desktop. I like to have home come up there. And mounted devices, that's enough. Let's see, extensions, hot corners, general. This is a... This is if you're going to be doing a lot of gaming, you can disable compositing for full screen windows. Of course, that could also introduce screen tearing, so be careful with that. Restart Cinnamon when it uses too much memory. That's kind of a new thing. I haven't seen that before. Huh. See, what else do we have here? Enable timer when logging out or shutting down. I like that. It's not on. That's if you're sitting there, it will do it automatically. You'll see the little progress bar go across the bottom, and it'll be like, if you don't do anything, I'm going to shut you down. If you like that sort of thing, you can turn it on. I usually tend to just kind of leave things the way they are. You can really customize this panel down here. We'll leave it alone for now. Startup applications. Let's take a look and see if there's anything in there we want to get rid of. No, everything seems to be useful. Workspaces. I think I missed it. We really need to look at screensaver. There it is. The screensaver is independent of blanking the screen. It's not the same thing. I usually just turn it off. And this machine is never ever going to be locked because it's a virtual machine, so we just turn that completely off. How the Windows tile, you can change that. We already set the display. We don't need to fool around with the sound. Power management, that's important. So in this case, we do not want it to ever suspend, and we want it to never blank the screen. It's a virtual machine. Although I do have to tell you that one of the coolest things in the world is when you look up at a virtual machine, and if you had like Windows running with an active screensaver, and the screensaver kicks on the virtual machine. That was years ago. I used to set that up to do that. It was kind of cool to see, but these days I don't fool with it. And we'll just keep on going down here and see if there's anything else. We definitely want to set up the firewall. So even if you are behind a router, I recommend that you set up a firewall. It's just safer. It's just safer. And it's easy. That's it. You just turn it on. Now, if you have a server running of some type and you need things to be able to get to it, then you can add a rule. Like in this case, we're going to add SSH. Make sure that you only click this once because this doesn't go away. Because you can add lots of, you can keep adding rules. So we have that rule there. And I don't think it complained and told us that this was a... It used to, when you'd add that rule for SSH, it would automatically say, well, this is some sort of a... it's a risk. It is, but it's not that much of a risk. So let's look at users and groups. So you have to just keep typing this in all the time. So this is my user. We can choose an avatar. Let's see, what do we got here? Oh, I like the astronaut. I want to be the astronaut. Yay! My kids used to actually fight over that. This has been in Linux Mint for years and years and years, that little astronaut picture right there. And my stepdaughter played softball, so she was always like a baseball. Stuff like that. Let's look at groups and talk a little bit about that. Groups in Linux, modern Linux, are used to give users permissions to do things on the system. I find it interesting that I have a group named Joe that was created when my user account was created. It's normal practice to create a group for the person that... every user on the machine has a group, is the point. And I'm not a member of my own group by default, so I will add myself. In the old days, groups were very important. Like on big corporate computers, you'd have certain teams working on certain projects, and there'd be a lot of security around it. So you had to be a member of this group to get to the project files if you were working on a big system like that. That's what it originally was used for. Nowadays, it's used for permissions mainly. So we've got that set up, and I will probably change the... Probably change that avatar. Okay, so we've gone through the system settings. That's cool. I don't think there's anything else to look at in here. I think the next thing that we probably want to do is install some useful software on the system. We'll take a look at the software manager, which in Linux Mint, actually, I think they do a really good job with this. This is a super simple, easy thing to use. Whereas some other distributions of Linux, you look at their software store, if you want to call it that, and I don't like them. They're complex. You can't quite see what's going on. Linux Mint makes it super easy. It just takes a little while to set itself up when you first click on it, so that's what we're waiting for here. So we have the front page and featured stuff. And then you can browse here. You can just look. There's a lot of software available. I mean a lot. Okay. And I believe this has flat packs included as well, not just deb packages. So if you want to find something like Midnight Commander, just do a search for it up there. And see, MC is the first thing that comes up. We're going to install some software from the terminal. I'm going to show you a couple of things that I really think you need to have. So make that one bigger. That's one thing about a terminal that I don't need is a scroll bar. And to make that stick, you have to go to Preferences, you have to go to Scrolling, and then turn that off. And usually I create my own profile and save the default. But we're not going to bother with that here. Okay, so we're in the terminal, and so we're going to use sudo apt install. MC is one of those programs. We're going to show you what that is shortly. Somebody asked me the other day what I recommended for a task manager in Linux, and my favorite is HTOP, System Monitor and Task Manager. We'll take a look at that as well. Here's something important. If you need compatibility with Windows-created documents in LibreOffice, then grab this package in Linux Mint Debian Edition. It is TTF MS Core. I think I'm going to get that right. Yes. the Core Fonts installer for getting the Microsoft fonts installed on the machine. So let's see. Let me see something real quick. We can look and see if certain things are here. Like, do they have Calendar installed? No, Debian has dumped that, just like Ubuntu. So we're definitely going to install ncal because I gotta have the calendar, man. That's important. Let's see, what else do we need here? It's just a few applications to install. You can, of course, come up with more, whatever makes you happy. But these are really the basic things that I need to have on just about any system that I get into. Let's see if ifconfig is installed. Yes, ifconfig works just exactly the way it's supposed to, which makes me happy because in Ubuntu, that doesn't happen automatically because ifconfig is considered to be deprecated, which is absolutely crazy, and it's replaced by a program called IP. And I don't like IP. I don't like the way it displays its information. I would rather use ifconfig, and I also have scripts that are written around ifconfig. So we don't need to bother with that. So NetTools are here, and I'm not sure whether development tools are installed, but if you're a developer, you'll know if you need them. So let's just go ahead and install what we got here. We can look at this new apt. We can see how this runs. The newest version. So let's see what we get here. All right, let me scroll up, and it's showing me we are going to install these packages, and it's going to be these dependencies, which is perfectly fine. Supported packages, it gives you all kinds of information there. Yes, let's continue. Thank you. New progress bar in apt. Those are the fonts going in right there. They're being downloaded from SourceForge. That is awesome. I didn't even have to do the EULA thing. What else would you possibly need? Well, I think that's good. I think that's enough. You know me, I could sit here and play around forever in the terminal, but let me show you a couple of things that we just installed. So, clear the screen with Control L, or you can type in clear, whatever makes you happy. First thing we're going to look at is htop, and this is a really nice program that shows you what is going on, and I find it interesting. It's showing me 8 cores. Didn't we put that down at 3? Did that not take? What happened? Anyway, it doesn't matter. See that it's showing us what memory we're using. 950 megabytes isn't bad for just the Cinnamon desktop, and we have 0% of swap being used, and we have that 4 gigabytes. So yeah, looks good. Now, if you want to see what's going on, that's listed down here, and you can read the documentation for htop and learn more if you want to. This is I/O, what's using what and where it's going, so that's pretty cool. Great program, htop. Let's look at MC. MC is a file manager that runs in a terminal, but you can use your mouse, and we have 2 panes open, so we can move files from here to here and highlight things, and there's a lot that you can do with this. What I use it for is search and destroy, where I'm looking for things on the system and I need to go find it very quickly. You can get through the system very quickly. Like we start out in our home directory, which is exactly where you think you would be. Now look at the left-hand side of the screen here. And so now I'm going to go up, and now I'm into the main system, and I can look at all of the stuff here. Right? Let's jump back into home. I can go to Joe. I can look at, it doesn't hide anything either, which is really good. Like you see here where we're seeing that the dot directories and dot files are just showing up. So that's very cool. It's all right there. Very nice indeed. And you want to get out of this, it's F10, or just use your mouse. Great little program to have installed. The fonts, there's nothing to see. And of course, I've got to have my calendar. I mean, how could anybody survive working in a terminal without a calendar? Come on, folks. Why is this not being included by default? I'm angry about this. Awesome. So we have this very nice, fully functional Linux Mint system that is just about ready to rock and roll. There's a couple more things I want to show you. First thing I want to show you is Synaptic. Oh, I did forget one program I want to install. I'll show you that shortly. No. I want Synaptic Package Manager. Is it in here? Type it right, you're going to be able to see it. Well, I'll be dipped. I don't think that's installed here. Try that one more time. Nope. Okay. So Synaptic Package Manager, I find it to be just about it's indispensable when dealing with Debian. If you're running a Debian system, you have to have this program. So we're going to actually install it, because I thought that this would be installed by default, but it's not. Oh, install. I said installed, so I typed it. I do that all the time. I do that when I'm reading too. Okay. I still got it wrong. Go ahead, laugh. It's all right. All right, there's Synaptic. The other one I want is GDebi. GDebi is a program that lets you graphically install deb packages. And apparently that's been deprecated, because you can do that in a terminal using apt now by just pointing apt at the package. But I really like the way GDebi works, so we're going to install those. We're going to take a look at them. And we're going to have to install Perl so that GDebi will run, because that's what it's written in. That's why it's installing all these packages. It's mostly Perl. It's really not large, it's just a lot of packages for this language. Okay, so let's go to our menu now, and what we're looking for should be there. I swear I thought Synaptic was installed by default. It may have been on 6, but not in 7. So there is Synaptic Package Manager. And this is a more sophisticated way of searching for packages. Okay, thank you. In Debian. So for instance, as you get kernel updates, you will have older kernels installed. So if you do a search for Linux image, that's all you have to put in, and then do the search, and then you look at the installed version. I'll make this bigger. So just click on installed. Look at all the kernels that are available in the repositories. It should show you what the installed version is. There we go. So these are the kernels that are currently installed in the system. This is all the stuff. And it appears that we have 4.3 and 4.8. So this has 2 kernels installed, which is pretty normal. And if you wanted to get rid of this, then what you would do, let's say we want to get rid of 4.3, just highlight it, and I'm using the control key to highlight both. Mark for complete removal, which means that this is a purge, and it'll take all of the configuration with it, and we'll apply that. And we say yes, apply. And now we are removing that older kernel that we don't necessarily need. Now, in reality, I would tell you not to remove that kernel just in case you needed to roll back to the old kernel for some reason. Apparently, the newer version is working, but there you go. And at least we know now that we're on kernel 6.12. So the changes are applied. Now, they won't really be applied until we reboot the system, but that kernel is now gone. Also, we can search for any package that we were looking for before. So if we go to search, and we'll just do, let's look for MC. There's MC, and it says that it's installed. So very cool program to have around. Very easy for like taking old kernels out and stuff like that and doing it graphically. And then of course GDebi is simple. I'll show you what that looks like. All you do is click install package, or click file, and then go open your deb package, whatever that may be, and then you can install it directly. Why not? Let's go grab a couple of files and then you can see how this works. So one of the packages I need to test is an old program that I use, and I'm going to go ahead and grab that real quick if you guys don't mind. So what we're going to do is I need to set up an SSH connection with the host. I don't use shared folders or anything like that with virtual machines. I always use SSH. So let me SSH, and I'll give it the host's full. Let's see. Oh, what on earth? Oh, sometimes with virtual machines, what'll happen is that the light is on that says numlock is on, and it's not really. That just got me. So we're going to do 192.168.0.11. And to fix that, by the way, is just to cycle it. All you have to do is turn numlock off and then numlock back on, and then it's actually on. So yes, I do really want to connect to that machine. I don't have keys set up, so we're going to be using a password. This is not a public-facing SSH installation, so therefore I don't have any problem having passwords enabled. Some people don't like that because it is a bit of a security risk, makes it easier for people to break in, but even on a public-facing system, I have had passwords set up for SSH for certain users, and I've never had anybody get into my system yet. But we're behind a firewall, and there's firewalls on all the machines, so this isn't going out to the internet, so it really doesn't matter. So I am now logged into my main machine, and that connection is working. That's good. So we're going to go ahead and clear the screen. Type it this time. Okay. So let us, this time we're going to use a program called SFTP. We're going to go get some files. And this is like FTP, but it goes through SSH. That's why it's called SFTP. So if you're used to using the old FTP programs, it's exactly the same. So we're going to do 192.168.0.11. And we're going to jump in there, and it's going to ask for the password. Thank you. We're going to grab some stuff. And so the first thing I'm going to grab is get.face. That's my real avatar. I'll open up users and show you that it changed. That's kind of funny. You can have an avatar, but nowhere on the system does it show the avatar in Linux Mint usually. You notice that? It's not like when you open the menu like in XFCE, it'll show you if you're logged in, your little avatar. It doesn't do that. But why not, right? So we are going to get, while we're here, we'll get this little directory that has all my scripts in it. We'll talk about that a little bit. I like to include this in videos. So we'll grab that. That's pulled all the scripts in. And now we need to get one more thing. Get, where do I have this hidden? I think, okay, it's in downloads. And it's in packages. And the name of the program is Tag Tool. So there's the file we need to grab a hold of. That didn't take very long. It's actually a very small program. So let's go ahead and install that since we pulled that down. I'm going to open up GDebi. And we're going to grab that file and install it. See if it actually works. I don't have any files on its system. There are no MP3 files here, so there it is. Grab that. I just want to make sure. Let's see, error dependency is not satisfiable. That's the end of Tag Tool as we know it, boys and girls. It doesn't work anymore. Uh-oh. This is bad. Bad. This means I'm going to have to find another program, because if it's happening here, that means it'll be happening in like Ubuntu and regular Linux Mint when we move on to the new version. Because that's the way it works, you know. Okay, I've been waiting for this program to die anyway. I need to get a new one at some point and find something else that does this. It was inevitable. Oh well. We can talk about the little directory I pulled in called bin, though. So I usually try and include this. If you're going to be getting into scripts and things like that, go ahead and get rid of Tag Tool. If you're going to be getting into compiling programs, writing scripts, whether that be Bash or Python or whatever language, it is a good idea to have a directory called bin on your computer that lives in your home directory. It's right here. Now, when this directory exists, what happens is when you log in, this will be added to the executable path. So when you try and fire off a program in Linux, it goes and looks certain places for the program in a certain order where that file actually exists. And you can look at the path that is set up for your environment super easy by echoing $, and then capital path, all uppercase. Here's the path as it currently is. You see the first one is user local bin, which is where you put scripts and programs that you compile yourself that are to be run by everybody on the system, right? So if you put it here, it's the first place that Linux looks for a program. And then user bin is next, and then just good old bin and var local games, it looks there. So it's looking at all these different places to run your program. Now watch what happens when I log out and log back in. We'll run path again, and you're going to see something different. There we go, we're back. And I'm going to open up the terminal again. And we're going to look at the path. Now, the first thing on the list is /home/joe/bin. So the first place it's going to look is in my local home directory for my own personal scripts. And that's going to make it easy because in there I have these little stub scripts that do things like this. Remember how I had to give the entire IP address to log into my main host machine. Well, now I don't have to do that. I've got this little stub called SSHN, and it asks for the password, and now I'm in there. That's it. That's a super easy thing. I'll actually show that to you because there's another program that I want to show you on here, and that is the text editor. Is one of my favorites in Linux Mint, plus the picture editor Pix is awesome as well. But let's take a look at Xed first. So I'm going to actually fire it here from the terminal so I can grab this file. You can find it in the menu if you want to. So we're going to do Xed, and then we are going to look for bin, and we're going to look at SSHN. So that should grab that. Xed not found. Oh, I'm logged into I'm logged into my machine. I'm on my host machine through SSH. No wonder it doesn't work. The host machine is Ubuntu. Cool. Yeah, I'm leaving that in. I laughed at it. You probably will laugh too, so let's get out of here. Okay, I forgot what machine I was logged into. Clear the screen. And we will go and do that one more time. Let's do Xed. And we're going to do... where are we looking for? We're looking in bin. And we're looking at SSHN. So let's open that up. And here's our little text editor. Make this a little bigger, please. And what we can do is... we will go to preferences. I want to change this theme immediately. I want to go to Cobalt because that's my favorite. You know, this is not available in the GNOME text editor, which I have been using since I installed Ubuntu 24.04. All right, so this is what this does. This is the command we're looking at here. It's just real simple. All you do is it's SSH, and then it does X forwarding 192.168.0, and then whatever argument I feed it, it's going to put right here. So this would be argument number 1. So SSHN 11 would fill out to be SSH, this command right here, and it would fire off. It's that simple. Pretty cool, huh? People always dig it when I show that, so figured I would. Now, some other things that we can do here is we can... Let's go to preferences once again, because I want to show you this. I mean, this is some really cool things in here. Like we can display line numbers. I find that to be very useful. And we can also display the right margin. And we're going to set that to 80. As I always try and keep lines below 80. And then the tab width is 4 spaces for the tab. That's fine with me too. Let's go ahead and close that. I'll show you what that looks like. So you can see where that 80 columns is right there. That's where it ends. And the other thing is that if you hold down Control and use the scroll wheel, you can make the font ridiculously large or zoom back out. And you can also do that by using Control and Shift and plus, and then Control. You have to shift it because the plus is above the equals. And then you can use the make it smaller by using the minus. So pretty cool, huh? Or Control plus on the Control plus on the number pad works as well. Very cool program indeed. I love Xed. It's a good program to work in, and I encourage you to look at the X apps in Linux Mint. So I think we pretty much have this machine configured. So the last step that I usually do with Linux Mint is to set up TimeShift. So we're going to assume that TimeShift is ready to, we've got everything the way we want it, we're all updated, and now we want to create a system snapshot so in case there's a problem we can roll back. So let's go ahead and open up TimeShift. It's already installed, it's not set up. And rsync is going to be our file type. We do not have Btrfs installed. If we did, then it would just use snapshots and it wouldn't use rsync. So go back to settings, please. Okay. Where's the wizard? Did they change it? We don't get a wizard anymore. Oh, I see. It says wizard. Let's get out of there. Go to wizard. All right. The wizard. Next, please. Now it's looking at the partition to see whether it's going to put it. And the only place we got is right there. Next. I recommend doing 2 weeklies and 3 dailies. I don't see the need for monthlies, and we certainly don't need hourlies. This will give you 5 total snapshots. These are backups of the operating system itself. This does not mean that it's backing up your files, and it's not really a backup either. We're creating a copy is what we're doing. And that copy is going to allow us to restore the system if we bork something up. I'll show you that at the end here. So next. So we are not backing up these home directories. We're excluding them. Unless you have a very tiny home directory, I don't suggest you turn that on. This is not a good backup option. There are better options for backups. This is really best used as just simple system backup. So let's go ahead and create a snapshot. Well, first of all, I'll show you one more thing, and then we'll create a snapshot. How's that? We'll just leave that there for the moment. One of the things that you may want to do, I had shown this in some past videos, and people always think this is cool. When you set up an ext4 file system partition, which is what this is living in, 5% of whatever drive space available is set aside for the system. The reason why that is done is in case a program goes crazy and starts writing to the disk and then fills it up. The Linux system needs access to the drive to work, to execute programs sometimes. And this will make sure that that is available for the system. Now, ordinarily with a small drive like 100 gigabytes, I wouldn't worry about it. I'd just leave it alone, 100, 128, 256. Well, maybe about the time you get to 256, you're going to want to do this. You might want to reclaim some of that space. And of course, if you have a really big drive like 1 or 2 terabytes or something like that, and your system is living on it, or you have data stored on a drive like that, you probably want to reclaim that reserve space because 5% of 2 terabytes is an awful big chunk. So it's really simple to do. Sudo tune 2fs and m, and we're going to set our percentage, because this is a boot drive, to, let's go ahead and just do 2%, okay? And now what we have to do is figure out what drive we're on. Now, I already know it's dev SD, it's dev SDA2. We're going to double check that by running ls block. Yes, it's SDA2. That's where we're going to be. So go ahead and run the command. We have reset the percentage to 2. If you are going to be doing this on a drive that does not have the operating system on it, a partition that's just for your home directories, like you have a separate home directory in a separate partition or on a separate drive, then you can set it to 0. Because there aren't going to be any programs that are executing there. And you don't have to worry about it. You can reclaim all that space and have no reserve set. And to do that, all you would do is just change this to a 0. And that's it. So a nice little tweak there. Okay, so let's talk about time shift. Let's show you how that works. First, we need to create a system backup. Usually it waits till the top of the hour to see whether it needs to do one. Actually, that is coming up very shortly here, but we'll try this anyway. And what it does is it makes a copy of the entire operating system, excluding the home directories and the root directory. The root directory is the root user's home directory. So we're not going to be backing those up. And so we're going to create a complete backup here. This might take a little time. So I'm going to pause the video, and when it's done, we will continue on, because you guys don't need to sit here and just watch this thing copy files. Okay, the system has got it all backed up, and we have one snapshot. So let's say that we find ourselves in a situation where the system gets messed up. It doesn't work properly. Let's say we tried to install some drivers of some sort. Now it's not working properly, or maybe you accidentally uninstalled a bunch of stuff, or maybe you installed a bunch of new software and you don't like it. You just want to roll back. You can do it quite easily with time shift. So I'm not even really going to make any changes to the system. We just created a snapshot. So if you ever find yourself in that situation, you can either do this from a terminal, or you can do it from the graphic thing. I'll show you on the graphic where, again. So if we go to time shift, and of course this has to be run as an administrator, you would choose your snapshot, and then you would click restore. And it's going to ask you some basic stuff, and it's going to say, would you like things put back the way they were? We're going to say absolutely, yes. And then you would do next, and you would go. So that's one way to do it. This would be graphically to do this. This can also be done from a terminal if you're in a situation where if you don't have a desktop, but you're able to get in through one of the TTYs and you have a running system, but the desktop's not working. You're not being able to see that because, let's say, the video drivers got trashed or something like that. You can do it from a terminal as well. So let's go ahead and close that. Let's do it from a terminal. So we are going to run time shift and restore. I'm pretty sure that's how that, yep. Oh, well, sorry. Now enter the snapshot number. There's only one, so we'll do that. That's 0. And we're going to do this with default options, which we have just looked at before. It should be fine. Press enter for all prompts. Okay, we're going to do that. Yep, let's go ahead and do that. Please do not interrupt the restore process. Not much has changed. And we're going to reboot. And it should boot right back up. So we didn't actually change anything. Of course, changing something on a desktop or something like that. We could have like uninstalled Firefox or something. I believe I did that in a video in the past, but you get the idea. So we have rolled back to the exact time that time shift took that snapshot. Makes it super easy. So that is our look at Linux Mint Debian Edition. I can't think of anything else to do with this thing other than to encourage you to download it and play with it and help Linux Mint to have an alternative to the Ubuntu base. And the more people that use this operating system, the more Linux Mint will realize that people are interested in the Linux Mint experience outside of Ubuntu. Of course, I think they already know that people are interested, but the more the merrier, right? Right. So let's just make sure this boots properly, and it does. So we're good to go. So let's go ahead and take this out of full screen mode, and we're going to go ahead and shut this down. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd love to hear from you in the comment section, and tell me your thoughts on Linux Mint Debian Edition, and if you have any suggestions for upcoming videos, things you would like to see me dive into on Linux, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. We'll do it again soon.